Watching where apathy and anger led me, it was just one of those things that I kept cycling back to. Or alcohol. Those are the three vices. Now everybody knows me. Anger, alcohol, apathy. We all tend towards where we're weakest when things get hard, and those are the three things that I tend towards. So finding a solution to those things, I recognized had to be supernatural, and it was. It was just, like, I don't mind sharing the story. My wife was going to Arizona to visit some of her friends, and so we were having like a men's whiskey night, and my wife just texted me. She's like, "Josh, have a good time. Don't get sloppy." Just don't have too many. And she normally doesn't text me anything like that. This was a time when I was drinking a ton of alcohol. I said to myself, I'm gonna have 2 drinks and there'll just be 1 ounce each. So just like a 2 ounce. And what happened was we're out, we're chatting with everyone. I only had 2, crossed my heart, hope to die, and just blacked out. The next thing I remember is waking up on my buddy's couch, covered in my own vomit, massive headache. His kids woke me up at 6:30 in the morning. They're screaming, they're poking me, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Literally, what the hell is going on? Because where I am is not a space of life and love. I call an Uber, my buddy's talking to me, I'm like, dude, I do not care, I don't need to know the story, I gotta go home. I get into my bed, I just passed out and slept for like another 5, 6, 7 hours, and when I woke up, I was a lot younger then, so I sobered up really quick, and that was the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that. Like, being blackout drunk is not a thing I've ever want to experience and had experienced previous to that. And I had this weird, ironic guilt. Like, I didn't do that on purpose, but for all of the alcoholism that I've been embodying previously, I never experienced it. And so it was a time when I was trying not to go any further than I should, that something happened, and all of these other times when I was going farther than I should, that nothing happened. And I was at like a dark time in my life. I was not reading my Bible, I wasn't praying, I wasn't participating in anything that was like God orienting. I had this thought in my head, which was a thought that I hadn't had in months, which was, you should listen to a sermon. And I put the sermon on and don't remember what the sermon was about, but at the very end, he said something like, I feel like I should say, if you're drifting and you've ended up in a place that doesn't make sense to you, you should just think about what God wants to say to you in that moment. I mean, that's not even super eloquent. Like, it wasn't this beautiful put together thought that pierced my heart. It was just like I have drifted. This is like as embarrassing and low as I've ever been. And what's God saying in the midst of this? And then it was just, I was processing that for the rest of the evening, went to bed. Sunday morning rolls around, and I was like, I think God's trying to communicate something to me. So I leave my apartment, walk down the steps, walk across the street, go to the small local coffee shop, and just start writing. Get a coffee, start writing. And I'm starting to process the guilt that I feel, the shame that I feel. And as I'm writing, I'm like, I'm not embarrassed because I didn't want to do this. Someone's not embarrassed when they get hit by a car. They're just injured. And as I'm writing, trying to process how I'm feeling, I start getting emotional out of nowhere. This is one of the times in my life that I cried. And so I close up my journal, throw it into my backpack, run across the street, go upstairs, and I just start weeping on my bed out of nowhere. And I put on worship music, which is, again, something that I generally don't do, and in that season would have never dreamed of, and I just start weeping again. Like, I have never wept like this, like snot, boogers, gasping. And I have this moment where I breathe in, and I kind of look up and open my eyes, and I see clear as day this lion come up to a precipice. And I'm like, am I hallucinating? And then the lion roars. And when the lion roars, I feel the weight of every single bit of rebellion I've ever committed just oppress me, heavy on me, that I was already low, like on my knees, boogers, snot, crying. I felt diminished to absolutely nothing. And the second I felt like I was going to be lost in despair, I was teleported into the lion's mane, and paw wraps around me, and I just squeeze his mane, and I felt love and peace like I've never experienced before. So I get up and I'm like, what just happened? Like, I kind of shake myself. I'm like, what just happened? So my wife's in Arizona. I'm like, yo, when you get back, we have to have a talk. So we go out for sushi. I tell her what happened, and she's like, I told you not to get sloppy. And I was like, fair, but look what happened. And she's like, okay, that's amazing. Just like a prophetic person would. She's like, let's see what happens in 3 months. And then 3 months later, she's like, almost to the day, we're sitting down for dinner and drinks, we're out, and she's like, Josh, you're a different person. And so my lens for how do we deal with those core things where we go back to broken cisterns that hold no water. It doesn't have to be open visions like I experienced, but always where God reveals unconditional love in the lowest of spaces you've ever been, and that will always redeem and make you who you were called to be.